Alright fellas, I know it's been a second since we made a video. I just had mouth surgery. Needless to say, we're gonna sound like this for the next few weeks. I've got stitches all in my mouth. Things are gonna be a little funky, but work with me on this, guys. And hopefully soon we can start sounding pretty normal again. With that being said, let's talk about my new favorite 450 round per minute auto rifle in the game. And I bring this up because we actually did a breakdown talking about our 450 auto rifles good. And this was right after the buff that was handed out to them. Essentially dropping the time to kill value here for 450s to 0.8 seconds, allowing them to be a little more optimal. However, 450s do require crits, pretty much all crits, in order to reach that time to kill of 0.8. Now, leaving that video, I was actually pretty let down. The number, I had snagged a couple God rolls and it had failed me. I was actually hoping almost like a resurgence of like a Uriel's gift meta with the number, with the right roll, of course, but that was not the case. And even our shadow price rolls, I mean, we have a lot of God roll adepts for shadow price. They too did not impress me. And I kind of just chalked it up. I was like, maybe it's just 450 round per minute auto rifles. They're just not in. And when you look at it, Bungie since year one has intentionally kept 450s from being meta again. For the longest time, I mean, Uriel's gift was like the most dominant weapon inside of Crucible year one of D2. So Bungie has avoided us ever seeing that happen again, including buffing other weapon archetypes, buffing every other auto rifle archetype, 600 especially when we were in a hard light meta, but they have tiptoed around 450s. Now, before I threw the towel in, we had to try one more 450, and that is actually the Dreaming City auto rifle Tigerspite, which is actually dropping now with new rolls. By the way, guys, if you pick up the weekly bounties there in the Dreaming City, it's my understanding this is the only place the new Tigerspite is dropping, is from these weekly bounties. With that being said though, we did a breakdown video talking about what we thought the God roll for this weapon was going to be. Big shout out to Karen yesterday for having some very godly RNG and allowing us to get on his account. Guys, here it is. We have Arrowhead Break, which is not necessary here on a precision frame. We actually went back and forth between this and corkscrew rifling. High caliber rounds, which I gotta say, it's pretty nice here. High cal out of 450, I could tell it was putting in work. It was offering some flinch to enemies. It was messing them up. And I would argue and say that that was actually one of the biggest factors in allowing me to win out in duels. But our first trait here is Surplus. This increases handling, reload speed, and stability for each fully charged ability. I know some people are just anti-Surplus. They think it's a garbage perk. I personally think it's one of the best perks in the game. It offers huge stat boosts, and there are ways to work around this. Take certain exotics that give you double melees, or maybe you're rocking Titan with Armatarium and you got double grenades. Even if you consume one of those abilities, you'll still have all three abilities up. But to be quite honest with you, as long as I have one ability up, I can tell Surplus is working. And even though I said in the past that it's not necessary on a 450 for its stability, the increase in the handling is actually what you're going to notice the most with Surplus. The snappiness. It almost gives you a feel as if Tigerspite is a lightweight weapon instead of just a precision frame auto rifle. Now, the final perk there is Rangefinder. Now, obviously, Rangefinder is good for so many things. It boosts that zoom, essentially increasing that range. And you can look at Rangefinder for the most part as always giving you somewhere between a 3 to 4 meter bump there in its range. For Tigerspite here, it was fantastic. And the reason why I bring up how fantastic it is, we would actually go back and forth between different rolls of Tigerspite here on Karen's account, swapping between a Rangefinder roll and just a basic roll of Tiger. The Rangefinder roll was super noticeable. Not only was it able to land shots at greater ranges, but its tracking, its stickiness, its all-around dueling capabilities in those mid-range territories, which by the way reaches up to 35 meters with the right roll here. And this is by no means a God roll. It's a good roll, but we are missing things like a better barrel perk, a better masterwork. Even without those things, Tigerspite was still reaching up to 34.5 meters. And what's so beautiful about 450 round per minute auto rifles is its ability to land crits even past that point. Matter of fact, Tigerspite specifically with Rangefinder is able to still land consistent crits all the way up to that 38 to 39 meter range, almost 40 meters. And even though you start to see damage fall off, like you can visibly see the damage numbers dropping, I'm not forcing this. The weapon is tracking. And there's one thing to say about weapons in Destiny 2. Bungie has actually come out and stated that some weapons, once you get outside of its range, where it starts to experience damage fall off, they immediately stop the weapon stickiness. They do this to make sure that weapon stays within its range that it was intended to be used. What I can tell you about 450s, and most notably Tigerspite specifically, is its ability to maintain traction, reticle stickiness, bullet magnetism, all those things that create aim assist and stuff. Tigerspite is able to maintain those things even past the point of damage fall off. This is very important, as not only do we like weapons that can do well in duels, in 1v1 scenarios, but we also like weapons that can always contribute to a gunfight no matter where you may be positioned on the map. And for the most part, Tigerspite is able to do that. Now you're probably wondering, is this just consistency chalked up to mouse and keyboard? How does this weapon even feel for controller users? Guys, this is controller gameplay. It was actually nuts how good Tigerspite was feeling on controller. And I bring up auto rifles for controller users because some people often bring up the fact that things like rapid fires don't feel good on controller, that it's much easier to track with certain weapons for mouse and keyboard. And there are certain weapons, of course, that are easier to do that with. I'm not getting into the debate of mouse and keyboard versus controller. All I'm trying to say right now is that one time when 450 round per minute auto rifles used to rule the Crucible, they did it from the hands of a controller user. And they were primarily meta on console. And it's actually due to the fact that the intrinsic perk of these weapons pretty much maxes out the recoil direction here and allows these weapons to feel super vertical. Thus meaning that for the most part, 450s is actually one of the easiest archetypes to control, even in the hands of a controller user. And I found that the games that I did play on controller with it, whether we were going back and forth between Rumble or 6v6 or whatever, Tigerspite felt phenomenal regardless of whatever input that we're on. Now, as far as the God Roll, now I do want to take a look real quick here because I do believe surplus rangefinder, even though we do like damage perks. And a lot of people are going to say, wouldn't the previous rolls you can get on Tigerspite would be better? Sure. Obviously, a surplus kill clip roll would have been nice for 6v6. But again, like I mentioned a second ago, there was a noticeable difference when going back and forth between Tigerspite with rangefinder and Tigerspite without. I felt it. I felt it so much so that immediately there was one match that I thought I had the rangefinder roll on, then realized that I didn't have it on and was like, that's why. That's why I keep losing these duels. That's why I keep messing up in these gunfights. That one perk changes the game here. And again, the added benefits of surplus with handling, reload, and stability. Fellas, there's a combination of ways to maintain you have all your abilities. And for the most part, a lot of my gunfights are gunfights. I know everybody's specking crazy for intellect, but feel free to spec more into your neutral game, especially if you're rocking weapons with surplus. And surplus is a trait that I've been rocking amongst a number of different weapons, whether it's shotguns or primary weapons or even sniper rifles. It's a very good trait. But as far as PvP goes, I think that is the best role in combination with high caliber rounds and small bore. Looking at some of these other barrel perks, you can of course do hammer forged rifling. There's even things like corkscrew rifling, which gives you a nice +5 buff to your range stability as well as your handling, which is what I would suggest. You want to make this auto rifle feel fluid. Even though you do have surplus, pretty much handling that for you. On those off moments you don't have any of your abilities up, it's best not to be overcommitted to perks like full bore, which greatly kill your stability and handling. Now, as far as the combinations to choose for PvE, Frenzy, Overflow, Swashbuckler, Subsistence, Frenzy Subsistence, Demolitionist Overflow. There's a lot of combinations here that make this weapon extremely potent in both PvE and PvP. Someone's gonna bring up, what about Mulligan? Because back in the day, armor piercing rounds in Mulligan would proc on itself. Again, doesn't work anymore. Dude, y'all remember that clip? We had it a long time ago. Reckless Oracle. You literally never had to stop shooting. Because armor piercing rounds allows you to over penetrate targets, it would actually go through the target, thus proccing Mulligan, thus allowing you to constantly keep returning ammo directly to the magazine. A cool feature, not necessary now, considering that Subsistence is so good and doesn't hurt reserves. The question is, Subsistence versus Overflow in this case, I don't know. It's a tough one. I think Subsistence is still better for shredding through large amount of ads. Overflow is still very nice, especially when dealing with champions. Take a barrier champion, for instance. He's going back and forth between stuns, popping that barrier, and you're sitting there going on and off with your primary weapon. Just having a super thick magazine, especially if you're double stacking it with magazine perks, you can potentially get up to 80 rounds maybe with Tigerspite, would be really nice here. And of course, Frenzy really is a good one overall as well. By the way, armor piercing rounds does do increased damage against barrier champions. Something to look out for if you're trying to spec for that. With that being said, guys, Tigerspite overall, it's the best 450 in the game for PvP, without a doubt. PvE, I know there's other more desirable trait combinations out there, but because this weapon is in the kinetic slot, it's doing more damage than weapons like Shadow Price. You've got Overflow, Subsistence with Frenzy. Out of all the weapons to grind for this season, for the list of repriced weapons, Tigerspite is definitely the weapon I'm seeking out the most. So guys, give it a try. If there's one thing I can say about Tigerspite and what makes it a different auto rifle than others, it's probably the fact that its red dot is just so unique to me. It's little things like that mid gunfight, this helps tremendously when tracking targets and when landing crits. With the right roll combinations, guys, Tigerspite will be a fantastic weapon for you. By the way, before I let you guys go, somebody dropped in the chat today and was asking how to find random roll weapon reviews from us. Anytime you're ever trying to find a review from us, if if you can't find it right here on the channel, always feel free to just type the name of the weapon and our name Aztecross. We review literally everything. And I know there's still a lot of things we haven't reviewed, but it's a good chance, especially exotics, we have reviewed it before. So whether it's weapons, armors, even builds, just type the weapon in, the exotic name in with our name, and it's a good chance you'll come across a video of ours. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.